Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, September 24th is now called to order. Andrea, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 3:40 p.m. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Stevens. Present. Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney is absent at the moment. Mr. Byrne.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron. Mr. Schron is absent at the moment. Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Ms. Turner. Ms. Turner is absent at the moment. Council President Jones.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Andrea. Andrea, has anyone signed in for public comment?
Yes. Lou. For the record, Council Member Schron is in attendance.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Glad to be here. Number one thing is I would like to give you a little bit update. 2 weeks ago, I was tackling the public comments issues, so I actually sent the documents twice, one for the committee of the whole meeting and one for the general meetings. And I'm not sure all the busy people like you are, if you actually got a chance to read the documents and review the PDFs. However, I would like to give you a little bit update. From September 11th through 13th, the Fridays, more than 100 people from 2227 Payne Avenues got relocated to, I would call that the second hell, due to the construction already started from a while ago. Yes, maybe it's nice to say, oh, even it's late, it's better than none. But remember, in the PDFs, I show you that that building had a very questionable water fountain. It was to refill bottles, not actually for people to drink. And based on that kind of stuff, we even worry if it was never filtered. People would just get a tap water directly. And lots of people already have health issues, this and that. So I'm glad to tell you guys they do have the water machine right now with the water delivered so they could have either hot water or room temperature cold waters to drink, if the number orders are sufficient, which it has never been perfectly ordered in the right numbers. So even that is a little bit improvement, but I would like to readdress the issue with the public comments itself. 2 weeks ago, when I make that comments, that's because of the flaw, which Mr. Totter addressed for you. So please reconsider that as part of the further future amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu.
That concludes the public comment for today's meeting.
All right. Items referred to committee, our confirmation hearing.
Council President, the script, please, first.
Welcome to the confirmation hearing in which council will consider the appointment of Sarah Parks Jackson as Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development. The Department of Housing and Community Development will focus on affordable housing and development, support for the unhoused, and programs to assist with housing ownership and maintenance. As the department's first director, Sarah Parks Jackson will assemble staff and resources currently spread across several different county departments and focus county efforts on providing safe, affordable housing for all Cuyahoga County residents. The hearing process will proceed as follows. The nominee will be offered an opportunity to address her qualifications, motivations for seeking the position, and outlooks and plans regarding the office. Council members will then be offered the opportunity to ask questions of the nominee. We will do so in rounds, allowing each council member to ask 2 questions per round until all council questions have been answered. Once all questions have been asked, we will entertain a motion to recommend the council approval or reject the nomination at today's council meeting. Thank you, and let's begin.
I'll read the item into the record. Resolution 2024-0302, confirming the county executive's appointment of Sarah Parks Jackson upon her taking the oath of office as Director of the Housing and Community Development.
Good afternoon. I am Sarah Parks Jackson, the current interim director for the Office of Housing and Community Development. I want to first take the opportunity to thank all of you, the council staff, and all my county colleagues for your assistance, guidance, patience, and support this past year. There is a significant need for affordable housing in Cuyahoga County. What I've learned is that there are also at least 59 definitions of what affordable is. The most common being 30% of a person's gross income. Well, we all know gross income is not what people bring home to support their families. Consequently, this year we entered into an agreement with Cleveland State University to conduct a housing study. As CSU undergoes the data collection process, I requested that they include the question, how do you define affordable? The answers will assist the county in moving forward as we create a comprehensive housing plan for the future. It is anticipated that that study will be completed by the end of the year, with results shared with this body at your choice of time and date. In the past year, we have worked hard to create a stronger working relationship with the City of Cleveland's community development staff. We confer on a regular basis on projects of interest to both departments, sharing information not only on projects but HUD-required processes, as well as brainstorming ideas related to housing and community development. Additionally, we have worked more closely than ever with the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority to strengthen that relationship and assist the residents served by the authority. Funding was provided to CMHA to provide security deposit and rental assistance for those with housing vouchers. CMHA also this past summer hosted the Council for Large Public Housing Authority conferences, and as a part of the conference agenda, I was asked to participate on a panel entitled Community Partnerships That Support Residents. Upon becoming director, I was concerned by the number of housing studies being conducted by various departments that were significant to the county's housing needs for specialized groups, but being prepared in a silo. Through this discovery, we now have more intentional conversations with the Department of Homeless Services, the Department of Reentry, and the Department of Senior and Adult Services. Through these conversations, we were able to provide $7.9 million of our Home ARP funding for the acquisition and reconstruction of Norma Hare 2. We were able to make an introduction with the Director of Reentry to Land Bank Charities, who is using $1.5 million of the county's ARPA funding to fund small developers of affordable housing who are rehabilitating one house at a time, with a number of those providing homes and support services to the reentry community and at-risk youth. Last year, we applied to HUD for a pro-housing grant in the amount of $10 million. Unfortunately, we missed receiving funding by 4 points due to a lack of identified leverage. We are currently in the process of preparing the 2024 pro-housing application for submission with the maximum ask of $7 million. Details will be presented to Community Development Committee at the chairman's chosen date. We can now show some leverage through the creation of the Housing Fund. This $3 million fund was created in 2024 using the interest earned from the emergency rental assistance funds awarded by the Department of Treasury. We believe that this fund will help us address the issue for leverage and applications in the future. It is our intent to continue to look for additional funding to grow this fund, thereby allowing us to help our residents who are most in need. This has been a year of growth for me with a lot of meetings, a whole lot of meetings, a lot of late nights, resulting in learning from every single individual I have encountered. The breadth of individuals I now learn from is much broader than previously and narrowed the focus on how we better serve those most in need. On a personal note, I am now the proud mother of a physician who is currently back home and completing his residency in internal medicine. As of August, I reached the milestone of 32 years of public service, and it is my desire and hope, yours too, that I continue to serve the residents of Cuyahoga County for a little while longer. Thank you.
All right. Well, at this time, we will have questions from council. You certainly can.
I need housing here.
All right. Would you like to lead us off with a few
Yes,
with
I
questions?
wouldn't mind. Through the chair to Sarah. She is a busy lady because she can't take my calls no more. She always on the road. I don't know what y'all doing. But we need to talk, ladies, later, Sarah. You said the $7 million applying for, what was that a state grant?
No, it's actually a federal grant. It is called, it's a pro-housing grant that HUD released the NOFA for. We applied for it last year. Last year, they set the maximum amount that you could ask for at $10 million. This year, they're going to give out more grants, but they lowered the threshold of the maximum that you can ask for, and that maximum is $7 million.
And what is the timeline that?
It is due October 15th. We have a 15-day comment period, which is quickly approaching. So we'll be putting an ad in the paper. We'll also be having a virtual public meeting for people to ask questions and review the document if they'd like to. And then we'll submit probably on the 13th just to have a little wiggle room in the process.
And so when will the federal government determine because I take it it's not just us that are applying through this process. So when is their timeline? Or when they're gonna?
Well, I'm going to put it this way. Last year when we submitted in late October, they said we would have an answer by the end of January. We got an answer by the end of June. This year they're saying that we should have a response by mid-February. I'm not holding them to that based on what happened last year. So hopefully we'll know by February. If not, we'll just keep on the lookout because they also don't send you notification.
Is there any other grant or opportunities or anything that's going on besides this one?
Not right now, but we, the grants person in the executive office sends us notification of available funding. We keep an eye on that, and I also keep an eye on other funding opportunities which may be available to us. One of the issues is that we're a government, so you see a lot of funding opportunities that are available, but they are for nonprofit organizations.
And then final question. So where are you in the process? I know we're reconfirming you today. Where are you in the process, your department, in terms of, I don't want to say splitting, but having different departments that are, their focus is on the new builds versus repairs and renovations and those things?
So what we're doing is, one, the split between development and housing and community development is ongoing as we find other things that need to be changed or corrected. We still have a focus because of the federal dollars on providing foreclosure prevention services, legal aid services, as well as fair housing services. And we're also still doing the affordable housing with the federal allocation that we have.
Further questions? We'll switch. We'll come down to Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and hopefully soon to be Director Jackson. I first of all want to just commend you for your long and visionary years of service to the county that has truly made a difference in the lives of many people. My first question is, I've heard discussions about the possibilities of manufactured or modular housing as a way to obtain new housing that's much less expensive than it's just very difficult when any new housing that's built is $150,000 to $200,000 or more, because a lot of people can't afford that. And I would be interested in your comment as to whether there's an opportunity there.
I've listened to, read about all of these interesting things with modular housing, and I know Land Bank has done some, as has Habitat for Humanity. I think the modular housing concept is great, except we don't have a plant here in Ohio. So what I'm hearing is the cost increases because that structure has to be, I believe there's one in Pennsylvania, maybe one in Indiana. So they're designing that house, they're building that house in those states, putting it on a flatbed and bringing it here. And that shipping cost is part of what increases the cost for the modular housing. So best case scenario would be if we could convince a modular housing company to move to the Northeast Ohio area, which would substantially reduce the shipping cost. Part of the application for this pro housing from HUD is to provide gap financing to developers. So if it's $450,000 to construct a house or do a modular house, but they can only sell it for $2, the hope would be that we would be able to provide the other $250 to finance that gap to bring it down to an affordable rate.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, Ms. Jackson, what statistics do you have on disparities in housing opportunity by race, gender, and income? And are we moving in a positive direction or in the wrong direction?
Mr. Miller, right now, those statistics are statewide, and I can share that with you. There's a huge document that Ohio Housing Finance Agency did. I have not seen anything recent that is specific to Cuyahoga County or Northeast Ohio. There's some older material out there, but nothing recent. So anything I say would be going on old information. We work very closely with the Fair Housing Center, and they do release a study on race every year, and more geared toward rental, but I most certainly will give that a look and see if it addresses your question so that I can share that with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ms. Jackson.
All right, Councilwoman Turner?
Thank you, through the chair. Good evening, Director. As you know, we were really trying to work with the Village of Woodmere on some housing needs. And having said that, we know that the housing needs are different throughout the county in various communities. Was wondering how you have addressed some of those different needs and how you may have partnered with other municipalities.
If I may address Woodmere first, and I go back to this pro-housing application. One of the components of this application is that HUD designated 18 communities as priority geographies, and a priority geography is one in which HUD has determined does not have enough affordable housing. Cuyahoga County as a whole is a priority geography. The Village of Woodmere is a priority geography. We sent letters out to a few of those priority geography communities, and I'm glad to say that Woodmere immediately responded back that they wanted to partner with us on this application to HUD, which would allow us to assist them to provide some affordable housing. Partnerships with other communities, the partnership that we have is really our home consortium, and that's the Federal Home Investment Partnership Act money that we receive on behalf of the county, Cleveland Heights, Lakewood, Euclid, and Parma. And that is a HUD-approved agreement. The money comes to the county. There's a percentage that is provided to those 4 communities, and basically we administer that on everyone's behalf. Other partnerships with the communities have been requests for technical assistance. When they ask us to meet with certain developers, we do what we can. There are no formal partnerships except for the one that is the Home Consortium because of the federal dollars.
And one follow-up through the chair. So I earlier, I want to say last year, was approached by a developer who needed some dollars to close the gap. And unfortunately, I did not have any ARPA dollars left to invest in this project. But needless to say, I thought that the project was amazing. I believe it's in Warrensville. He may have reached out to some of my other colleagues in their districts. But my question is surrounding where do those dollars come from for developers who want to come into our communities and rebuild?
Right now, when you're talking about public money, for example, when we get our allocation for HUD for affordable housing, which is the Home Investment Partnership Act money that I refer to, we receive annually about $2.3 million. That's it, for the year. And that's when you see that I release the applications to do the gap financing at $450,000, and I maybe can do 2 or 3. But that is the, excuse me, that is the funding that I have currently to be able to assist those developers. We know more money is needed. How we find it, where we find it, that becomes a struggle. Again, like completing this application for the $7 million and fingers crossed, hopes and prayers that this year, excuse me, that HUD will approve it. Those are the resources that we have. I think talking to people and seeing if there's any philanthropic interest, which meaning they don't, thank you, Cynthia, they don't necessarily have to provide it to the county, but if they would agree to work with us, banking institutions, other organizations that may have funding. But right now, what happens is when a developer comes in, I can't assist. I try to go through the laundry list of other organizations that they can check with to see if we can't get their gap filled.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Jackson, I actually don't have a question. I simply want to say that you've done a great job as the interim Director of Housing and Community Development, and look forward to working with you as the Director of it. So, and thank you for your years of service, and look forward to the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Schron.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've enjoyed working with you, Sarah, all these years in economic development, and sorry to see you go from that side, but I know you're going to do a great job in this. Some of the challenges that I'm seeing with the housing, and it's directly in my area where my business is, as I'm sure you're well aware, that the out-of-towners are coming in and they're just buying up the affordable housing. What do you see as an alternative to this? Because it just, what it's doing, it's taking out stock inventory that could be available for affordable housing, and they're driving up the costs of this because they're coming with outside money. They're buying it for cash and paying whatever it takes.
Thank you, Mr. Shrine. I will tell you that I've thought about this. I've had conversations with Director Hernandez at the City of Cleveland. We're reading all the articles. It's not just happening here, although it's pervasive. We don't know. We don't know. It seems that every type of legal roadblock that is put forth so these people don't buy up the properties, they find a way around it. I just got a phone call the other day. It's like, we'll pay cash for your house. My house is not on the market. So I told them how much cash I wanted, and then they got up off the phone. But we have other people who hear that. They hear, oh, this person called, and they said they'll give us cash, which means they don't have to go through the multitude of paperwork that we all have gone through to purchase a house, because these people are just going to come, they're going to give them cash money, and they're going to turn the house over for folks that are in need of cash to support their families, and otherwise, they're going to take that money. So we don't know the twofold side, which is the folks who would readily give up their home for cash, and then these people that are in Europe or wherever that don't know the condition and they don't care about the condition. There's got to be something that can be done. I think it's going to have to filter down from a little higher than us to make those adjustments so that it is not as easy for these folks to just come in and buy these properties and not maintain them and then discard them to somebody else who's not going to maintain them.
Well, I think, we've had great conversations in the past. The two components of community are the house that the family's going to live in, and the other is the job that they're going to pay for with. And if we're seeing this coming in, and I was hearing about Albuquerque is going through the same exact problem, and what it is, it's the drug dealers coming in with so much money and so much cash, and they're buying these houses right in the middle of sections, making it almost impossible for affordable housing. I really hope that we can look at this in a totality and say work with police and with everybody in regards to, because sometimes these are bad people. Sometimes they're coming in and just buying this stuff up and have no desire whatsoever for the community part or the job part. They don't care, and they're coming in and driving up these costs. My fear is that if we should see an economic slowdown, we're going to be back where we were 10, 12 years ago when we had the housing crisis, and we ended up having to sadly tear down houses that these folks from out of town could care less about. And I don't know how you go about it. If there's something we can do, please let me know, because we're trying to drive up the job piece. I can't drive up the housing piece. That's not something I have a whole lot to do. But let us know, because I know that our neighborhoods are seeing it right where I am in Collinwood, where these houses are being bought up. Talking with Councilman Polensek, he says it's just crazy that these people are coming in and buying this stuff from all over the world without ever walking even in the neighborhood out there.
I thank you, and I will let you know. And I think that also speaks to the enjoyment I have with the relationship I have with the Director of Community Development for the City of Cleveland, because she and I talk. And she and I can talk about what's happening in Collinwood, because she is directly responsible for that. Well, okay, what are you doing? And then we can talk about some of our border communities where I've got a suburb here and she's got a City of Cleveland border, and what are you doing and what kind of money are you guys putting into it? They get 4 times the amount of dollars in community development block grant that we do. We get about $4 million, they get 20. I get about $2 million in the affordable housing, that home fund, they get 4 to 5. So that's always been a bone of contention. But we work with what we have, and now having that relationship The ARPA money helped us do a lot. The emergency rental assistance money helped us do a lot, but that money ends. So now we have to figure out creative ways to keep some momentum going and increasing affordable housing and tackling these legislative issues of the bad actors that come in and buy these houses.
I know we had great experiences in my district, and I assume the rest of council also did with the Greatest Estates program. It came out, and it really was impactful. I wonder if we could use the power and leverage of the marketing of this county to talk to those folks who are getting those offers of cash and let them realize that, wait a minute, you're not just selling your house, you're giving up the community. And could we put together a program that says, we need to have you stay together. Please ignore that out-of-town bidder that comes in. I know it's awful tempting, but you are causing your community to be sacrificed at the expense of your getting the cash. And I understand it, when they wave that dollar in front, it's very tempting. But by the same token, they have a neighbor on both sides of them that is going to make it difficult. And I think that we could put together as effective a communication tool as we did with the Great Estates, and actually talk to the people and wake them up and say, hey, I know it's hard to turn that money down, but think of what you're doing if you can build your neighborhood by staying with us. Be part of this thing. Rebuild our community in Collinwood and the other areas. So I don't want to sound like it's an easy task, but we did it before. We've done it with some of these other communications. We're talking about stuff that nobody ever thought people would want to hear, and I wonder whether we could do the same thing with housing stock. And feel free to call on, those of us who have businesses right in Collinwood, we'll be with you every minute, because I know that's strengthened it if we have the people living there, their family there, their job is there. And
Councilman, is your microphone on?
yeah, it's on.
Thank
I was getting emotional. I was backing up as I was talking. So thank you, though. So whatever we can do to communicate that, because it's so tempting to take that money, but they are also part of what breaks up the community when that happens.
I have made a note, and I will talk to the fiscal officer, treasurer, and our communications team to see what we can put together in a campaign, and we certainly will get back to you.
And some of it might be the taxes that are going to come through with the reappraisal and the valuations, because some of those houses went up in value, and it's causing some tax pressure. So perhaps there's something we could do to help slow the taxes down, to take it over a deferred basis, whatever might help those folks who don't have to convince them, don't sell your house, don't break up the community, let us work with you. So just a thought.
So noted, thank you.
Can I respond to Councilman Schron?
Yes.
And to Sarah, maybe we need to bring in DSAS as well, because those are the ones that are living longer and actually own homes and are selling them. I had a little program that was running prior to COVID where we had all these developers in the Glenville neighborhood and trying to buy people's homes and things like that. And I had them in on a weekly basis. I think we had this program where they would come in and actually get educated by us. And there was so many developers. I think I had a developer turn red, but I was kind of upset that they were doing this and making people think that, okay, I'm going to live a grandiose life. I'm going to sell this house and I'm going to have this money. And I had to bring other people in to start to show them, okay, then you need to have a little bit more of a conversation about, you're going to take this $200,000. You need to be educated. Where can you take that $200,000 and how long are you going to live off of that $200,000 when you find another house?
So the whole story.
So the developer left kind of a little upset, but y'all know my passion is about people. I'm okay with if they want to sell their house and gentrifying the community, but then you have to look on the other side, like Jack said, what is it doing to your community? You got these outsider people, you don't even know what they're going to do with the property, and educating the people, which becomes our problem here at the county when we can't find a housing for them that they can afford, because now they've sold their home. So I think that this is a good partnership to have that conversation get out there. And DSAS could do it because
So noted. I
they go
got it.
into the homes.
Yeah.
And what is the advocacy at the higher levels? You kind of spoke to it earlier, whereas we certainly can go to each individual and try to advocate when they see a large dollar amount put in front of them. But what is the advocacy, what is the content of that advocacy to the state or federal level? Say, if you do this, then you start to mitigate what the average citizen is going through. Is that something that could be done to determine what that resolution might look like, or what they could advocate for at the state or federal level?
We've actually done the advocacy at the state level. Councilwoman Stevens was there, I was there. The State Senate Committee on Housing had a hearing here several months ago, and there was over 100 people that gave testimony to that Senate Select Committee. And we talked about housing needs. We talked about the foreign investors. We talked about home ownership. We talked about the need for home repair. The state heard us. They published a report, and there's right now like 4 different bills pending. I don't know what that does for the need that we have, which right now is financial. And they heard us say that. It's like we need money throughout Northeast Ohio, Akron, to assist our homeowners to make the repairs for those that want to stay, to help folks that are unhoused find housing, to help our seniors who maybe can no longer maintain a house and need to go somewhere else. We need to be able to assist them to do that. So all of that was brought up. Where it rolls out, from a state standpoint, I've heard some things federally. We're waiting to see, but we did do that advocacy with the state of Ohio not too recently. And again, it was people like myself and again, Councilwoman Stevens and other municipalities, as well as advocates that gave testimony to the committee. And I'd be more than happy to give you the little book that they published. Well, it's not little, but of the testimonies that was given and what the state committee, what they think the results should be.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Sarah. I might as well take a moment and just share with all of my colleagues, conversation you and I have had about a year ago. Last summer, I was invited to speak at United Pastors and Mission, a roundtable of several hundred ministers, and there was probably 50 in the room, and they claim another 100 plus on the Zoom. But they asked me to speak on how the county and the church could better partner together. So I shared with them how we already partner the church and the county through our county food bank. Obviously, this body approves the dollars that go to the Cleveland Food Bank, and the churches use their voluntary ministry volunteers, and they pick the food up, and those churches that are networked with us, they distribute that food from their church location across Cuyahoga County, and we address food insecurity through that model. And when COVID comes and moments like that, we just pump more money into the existing network, and we again are able to address food insecurity. But I shared with them, I said, well, the county has far more than just food to provide. There are other resources and product services that we can bring to the table to further that partnership. And I used the county land bank as an example. I said the county land bank can give any church the technical support necessary to fix a one vacant or vandalized house. So with that, churches, why don't you, that want to be part of the network, why don't you look 360 degrees around your church? If there's a vacant, vandalized property, become a real estate investor. Okay, buy that property through the land bank, fix it up and sell it. Okay, the land bank has real estate partners who can tell you if you fix it up, it will sell for this dollar amount. So you invest a dollar amount to purchase and a dollar amount to rehab, and you can make a profit. It would create comps in depressed neighborhoods when you go into those areas. It provides consistent work if you have a critical mass of churches to do this, to an industry of individuals who would do home repair work and rehab work. Apprenticeship opportunity. There's so much to benefit from churches buying into this concept. So I got a favorable response, and over the last year, I've been working with the land bank to bring this to fruition. And I've kind of been doing it as like a pilot right off of the bat. There are a few churches who are right now working with the land bank, identified properties and looking to work on them, tease out any issues that might work. But then in time, just roll this out wide to any church. I see this as an opportunity to be transformative and not simply because we have worked, Sarah and I, we worked on apartment buildings and, other things. But again, nothing transformative. It takes partnership with stakeholders to actually reach that level of change in the community. So I look forward to how we can, again, better partner in that area as it develops. So kind of just opening it up right now, looking to bring it out, fully in the spring, and we still will. We still, again, working up, make sure we got all the issues and challenges out of the way before we just fully open wide. But this seemed like a perfect moment to share and, again, find out how we can all partner together in an area like this. So,
Council President, if they still have funding, the $1.5 million of ARPA that we provided to the land bank, right now they're doing it in $50,000 increments to nonprofit organizations that want to develop housing. And I had the list and I didn't bring it with me. But I can tell you some of these folks have bought houses for transition age youth coming out of foster care. One of the reasons that I had the director of reentry meet with Land Bank Charities is because there's an organization there that has bought a house, rehabbed a house, and is singularly focused on the reentry community. We have folks that are singularly focused on immigrants, and that was the purpose of that money, because to have them come through, quite frankly, our system for $50,000, it didn't make sense. And some of these folks are new at what they're doing. The hand-holding that they needed could not be done by our office. Land Bank Charities was the best place for them to get that hand-holding, for them to get that construction experience holding, and now they have some of those nonprofits who are doing their second house, on their way to their third house. And I'm very proud of that program, that we could take that 1.5 and help these folks who were doing it anyway. And now we can assist them, because not only do these organizations provide the housing, they're providing support services. They're providing job training and all types of things. So my hope is that we still have a little money left for the land bank when that first 501c3 church affiliate is ready to get started.
thank you. Are there any further questions? Just a quick comment. Yes, Mike.
Just a quick comment. Sarah, how are you today?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. I want to thank you. When I was first appointed, you sought me out, and you came and found me and explained exactly what your department could provide, what you would provide to District 4, to me personally. And I wanted to thank you for that. You made me feel very comfortable from the very, very beginning. I wanted to wish you and your family the very, very best in the future. Your resume speaks for itself. And the best also to the doctor in the house, too.
You might see him this evening.
Cheryl, Councilwoman.
So, I say with great pride that we have interacted for most of our careers together. The commitment to housing, community, and economic development is something that neither you nor I take lightly. But I am proud of the things you have accomplished and you found along your way to this leadership position. I'm honored that you are willing to continue to work for Cuyahoga County on behalf of these 11 folks that sit here and the 1.2 million people that live in our community. As those of you who know that I drive on any given day, I may be anywhere from Cleveland Heights to Massillon because of the work that I do full time. I was listening to a podcast about housing in this country in the last 2 days. And that podcast talked about the fact that this housing shortage that we're living through right now that causes the values of for sale single family and multifamily rentals to go through the roof is because when we hit this financing debacle in 2006 and 2007, the housing construction industry stopped building almost 2 million units a year across this country and dropped it to 600,000 a year. And when you take into consideration the increase in population and the shifts in population and the fact that a lot of our housing stock is older and should be taken out of circulation because it's functionally obsolete, that jobs like yours are incredibly important to the future stability of our country, and especially communities like Cuyahoga County and the 59 municipal jurisdictions within it, because if we are to continue to be a strong entity operating to the benefit of our residents, we need to have someone who's focused on making sure that there are housing units that fit the range, everything from the needs of low and moderate income families to working class residents, as well as the wealthy in our communities. And your commitment to especially finding low and moderate income families and working class families housing opportunities is what we desperately need as we try to make this an economically vibrant county. So thank you for the things that you've been committed to learning how to do and the new ideas that I love that you come up with as we bounce ideas backwards and forwards about making sure this county thrives into the future. So thank you for your work and thank you for your ideas and the skill sets that allow you to continue to give even when you thought you had your last idea last week.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues.
Sarah, take a moment and tell us what you see your department doing, your strategic priorities. And I'll put it in this context. We certainly have our county land bank. I go back years back when we sponsored the $50 million demolition. We knew that needed to be done, but I didn't see the Department of Development as being the entity that would have led that. I saw the land bank as being the department for that. So with your department now have been carved out of Department of Development and Housing, what do you see your priorities and strategies and goals and objectives for your department?
Council President, the first objective was just to get the department created and all the stuff that went with it, which at times was challenging and aggravating, but we made it happen. Most important to me was I had been given the charge of we need to have this housing fund and we need to fund the housing fund. How do we find money as a government entity to put into an account so that it can sit there for a little bit, be leveraged to bring in other dollars? And one day it was like, wait a minute, the emergency rental assistance money, the regulations say that we get to keep the interest. And I just went, can I have it? I talked to the administration and we went through a law department to make sure everything lined up. And now we have that $3 million, which we can build on when we talk to philanthropic organizations. Next is the housing study that Cleveland State is currently doing. That housing study is going to inform our strategic priorities moving forward. It's going to turn into a plan. It's going to tell us what all of our 59 communities, the rich ones, the poor ones, the ones in the middle, what do they need? Because they all make up Cuyahoga County. So we can't neglect Hunting Valley because we know there's a need in East Cleveland. We've got to be able to support everyone. So as a matter of fact, last week, the surveys went out to the mayors. And then I followed up with an email to the mayors to ask them to please fill it out because we need to know, we need to hear from them. What are your needs in your community? And that's what will drive what our strategic goals are, wants, wishes, desires going forward, and how we're going to get there. We will have the plan that I hope that it will be ready by the end of the year, according to Cleveland State. And then we will have input from so many individuals that are in this area with expertise on housing and transportation and zoning, but more importantly, those folks who run their communities who say, that's nice what the advocates say, my people need this. And that's who we needed to hear from, and that's who we're gonna hear from, and from there we can move on with additional strategic goals.
Thank you, Sarah. It certainly has been my pleasure to work with you over all of these years, and I look forward to a long and productive working relationship with you. All right. Are there any further questions from anyone? Councilman Strawn, you look like you.
Call for the question. I think we're ready.
Second.
Yes, we are ready. All right.
So you mean get your head up? But there was no reason to hold this up.
No, not at all. You called for
All right, but we will
question.
entertain the motion.
Right.
Did you, is
And I
that the motion?
second. so-
That was my motion, yes,
All
sorry.
right, properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And this is under second reading suspension for tonight. Okay?
So
that-
moved.
That is, it has been probably moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Council President?
Yes.
I would like the record to reflect that council members Conwell and Turner are in attendance.
All right. Okay. So at this time, we're going to have and under miscellaneous business, we're going to have our Ohio Auditor of State Mandatory Fraud Reporting and Training class session. This is about 7 minutes long.
Yes.
We all need to.
And at the end of the training, you will find in front of you, I've sat in front of you, it's called the Acknowledgement of Receipt of Auditor of State Reporting System Information. And please fill it out and then hand it back to me.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The
How
floor
are
is
you?
yours.
Council President, council members. This year is the first year that Ohio auditors have decided that any government entity needs to start to take fraud training. They figure the best way to combat fraud in government is through training. This year, they have provided us with a short training video that they would like for everyone to take. So what we're going to do is play that video for you, and then I just need you to sign the form. The next time that you'll actually have to do this is in 4 years from now. And so we won't have to worry about it. They're only asking us to do it every 4 years. So.
Hi, I'm Auditor of State Keith Faber. This training is a result of a recently enacted law and is now required for nearly all Ohio public employees. This training will provide you with the tools necessary to detect and report fraud and maintain the strict ethical standards required by your position. Too often, my office is required to issue findings for recovery of taxpayer dollars or other sanctions against Ohio entities and employees that could have been avoided. This training will provide you with the knowledge to help you avoid these penalties associated with fiscal wrongdoing. More importantly, it will assist you in recognizing potential criminal activity by others and give you the information necessary to report to law enforcement or the Auditor's Special Investigations Unit. As public servants, we are expected to do our jobs with the utmost honesty as we serve Ohio's taxpayers. I thank you for your service to Ohioans, and if you have any questions after the training, please feel free to contact us at the Auditor's Office at either ohioauditor.gov or 1-866-FRAUD-OH. Thank you.
Welcome to the Ohio Auditor of State's training video on reporting fraud, waste, and abuse in government. As public employees, it's our responsibility to ensure that taxpayer dollars are used efficiently, effectively, and transparently. That requires a rigid adherence to the ethical behavior that taxpayers across Ohio have come to expect from us. The overwhelming majority of public employees come to work and do their jobs with the highest level of professionalism and pride. But on occasion, there are bad actors who take advantage of their access to public funds and resources. These types of behaviors are rare, but when they do occur, no matter how big or small, it severely erodes the public's trust in our work. Before we begin, here's a bit of background. The brief training you're about to receive is just one layer of a robust fraud reporting training that is required by law of all state and local government employees. Each public employee is required to receive this training during their initial onboarding and every 4 years thereafter. By learning the signs of fraud, knowing your responsibilities when fraudulent behavior in government occurs, and knowing how to report fraud to the appropriate authorities, you can play a key role in preventing loss of taxpayer resources. And as a public employee with an inside perspective to the day-to-day doings of government, you are the first line of defense in stamping out fraud, waste, and abuse. Let's begin by defining our three main categories: fraud, waste, and abuse, and then look at examples of each in the context of state and local government. First, fraud. Fraud in government refers to intentional deception or misrepresentation for personal gain or to deceive the public. This could include embezzlement, bribery, or falsifying documents, such as timesheets or financial statements. Let's look at an example. In 2019, an employee of Smith Village created fake invoices for services that were never provided. They arranged for a family member to receive the contract to provide those services. When the invoices were paid, the employee and their accomplice pocketed the money. This scheme lasted for 3 years before being discovered, resulting in losses totaling $30,000. Now let's look at waste. Waste in government occurs when resources are used carelessly or extravagantly without adequate oversight, resulting in unnecessary costs to taxpayers. This might include overpaying for goods or services, unnecessary spending on projects, or even an intentionally inefficient process for a routine task. Let's look at an example. The Office of Finance is looking to purchase new technology for its team. The department decided to purchase desktop PCs for all administrative employees, all of whom had already been issued laptops. As a result of this oversight, many employees decided they don't need the new machines, and the PCs end up in storage, unused and wasting taxpayer funds. If the Office of Finance had issued the machines only to employees who needed them, they could have saved money. And lastly, abuse. Abuse excludes fraud and noncompliance and involves actions that a prudent person would determine to be unreasonable based on the circumstances, such as requesting reimbursement for an expensive meal or asking an assistant to pick up dry cleaning during working hours. Let's look at an example. The Director of Communications frequently has his clothes dry cleaned. It's common practice that he sends his admin out once a week to the dry cleaners 20 minutes from the office. Not only should the director be responsible for his own laundry, but it is also obviously inappropriate to have the admin run errands on state time. It's important to know that the examples provided are not comprehensive or exhaustive definitions of fraud, waste, or abuse. But if something doesn't look right, it's probably worth looking into. It's crucial for us to remain vigilant and report any suspicions of fraud, waste, or abuse. Suspect fraud? Speak up. We'll do the rest. Let's take a moment to discuss how you can report suspected bad behavior to the Ohio Auditor's Special Investigation Unit. Ohio law requires that any known instance of fraud, waste, or abuse be reported to the Ohio Auditor of State. There are several options you can use to make a report. You can report online through the auditor's website. Make a call to our Special Investigations Unit and speak to our intake specialists. This may require you to leave a message outside of business hours, but our staff will contact you. Send an email to our Special Investigations Unit that details the information you want to report. Make a report through mail, sending our Special Investigations Unit a narrative and any substantiating documentation you may have. All public organizations have a working relationship with staff at the Ohio Auditor's Office. If you suspect fraud, waste, or abuse, you could make a report to a member of our audit team. In this case, they could assist you in providing the necessary information to our Special Investigations Unit. Anyone who makes a report to the Auditor of State's Special Investigation Unit should expect one of our intake specialists or investigators to reach out to them. The more information that you can provide, the greater we're able to thoroughly investigate your claim. Remember, making the report is the first step in stamping out unethical and illegal behavior in government. It's important to note that public employees are protected against disciplinary action or retaliation from their employer for making a reasonable and good faith report of suspected fraud, theft in office, or misuse or misappropriation of public money. That means your good faith report of suspected fraud should not impact your role or status as a government employee. Thank you for taking the time to watch this important training video. By working together to detect and prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, we can ensure that taxpayer dollars are used responsibly, effectively, and transparently. Remember, it's up to all of us to uphold the integrity of state and local government in Ohio.
All right, are there any questions that I may answer for you? I thank you for your time. Have a good one now.
Thank you.
You all have a sign?
They'll collect for you.
Turn them into, clerk.
Thank you.
Council President? Are we going to adjourn the meeting?
I was just signing my name. All right. Okay, so at this time, our meeting is adjourned, and we will reconvene promptly